a fun little figure for you. We enthusiasts wring a whole lot of hands about the death of the manual transmission. But thus far in 2023, more than a third of Porsche 911s have been equipped with manuals. And in the case of the Porsche 718, like I'm driving today, the number is now at 51%. There is hope. I'm Al Alder, and today on Driving.ca we're out in the Porsche 718 Cayman GTS 4.0. This, the ultimate of the Porsche Boxster Cayman lineup, can put down acceleration figures faster than 4 seconds. Better still, these things get a 4-liter naturally aspirated flat 6. In this modern era of small displacement and little turbochargers, that is something special. The Porsche scene has never been shy about elitism, and the Boxster Cayman models have always played something of a second fiddle to the Porsche 911. But these Porsche Boxsters and Caymans really are some of the best enthusiast drives on the market. And if those manual uptake figures, the greater proportion of which are in Boxsters and Caymans, are anything to go by, this is the car that the real driving enthusiasts are going for. The 718 branded Porsche Boxsters and Caymans have been with us for a good long while now. Indeed, as long as the Porsche 991, which has already been retired. Coming from base with a little 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, they were widely seen as a bit of a downgrade from previous generations' flat 6s. But even in that base configuration, 718s have proven formidable driver's cars. And thanks to those little turbos, they actually put down peak torque from just under 2,000 RPM. They're quick machines. This is something different, however. This naturally aspirated flat 6 resurrects a lot of what people loved in the earlier 986, 987, and 981 models. And with a whole lot more power, too. Put your foot down in this thing, you've got access to 394 horsepower and 309 pound-feet of torque. All in a focused, compact, mid-engine sports car. It really gets the formula right, and the drive is even better. You see, the more Porsche leads into this GTS lineup, the more kit they're packing into these cars. Driving a 992 911 GTS just the other week, I was stricken by just how much Porsche could put in that car, for better and worse. In that case, the 911 has become really heavy. The lightweight package in that car adds heavier rear axle steering. It's a strange beast. This is not so bloated, however. Indeed, this gets even tighter. Press this button and the now standard adaptive damping stiffens up the whole ride, makes it even sharper over these smooth roads. Tap it back off and the ride returns to a surprisingly compliant cruiser. All of this too despite riding on huge 20-inch wheels with hardly any sidewall. That means that while there's not a lot of room for sidewall to absorb those bumps, it also means there's not a lot of sidewall to flex. And man, does that let these Pilot Sport 4S's hold. So effectively managed with such graceful traction management and the aid of limited slip, this thing just heaves itself around corners. But what's important about that is that the Boxster Caymans don't feel bored in the way that the 911s do on the road. You see, I've complained a lot about the modern generation Porsche 911s. Those are excellent cars, they're just too good for their own good. This, however, strikes a careful balance. See, poised and powerful as this 718 is, Porsche still needs to make sure that its 911 brand stays the big dog on campus. That means that everything here is dialed back a little bit, and that's a really good thing. That means that the Boxster and Cayman, even in this tremendously powerful flat 6 configuration, don't end up too fast for you to be able to enjoy. This is a car that you can actually put your foot down in every so often and still just for a moment, but without things getting into jail territory in quite such a rapid snap of the fingers. It's a really welcome dose of moderation, and one that really helps ground the car for realistic driving experiences here in North America. And of that drive, Porsche has done some of the better work on today's market in actually retaining the joyful driving characteristics. Quick to mind here is the 718 steering. Almost everything on the market today uses electronic power steering, Porsche included. But where most, like BMW, will overdo the steering weighting so that drivers get some illusion of road feedback, this thing actually gets the balance quite naturally. Though emotionally, I don't like that this steering rack is electric, I really respect and appreciate the way that it lets me pull this car through corners without feeling that I'm just playing a video game. Also really respectable is the transmission in this car. Now, I quoted those manual uptake specs earlier, but this is actually a PDK equipped car. That's not the end of the world, however, because PDK is really, really good. Gradually refined over the years, Porsche's double clutch system is just so sharp, so smooth, and so fast. Driven gently, you'd be forgiven for mistaking it for a conventional automatic transmission. It just does everything so smoothly. There's no jerking like you get in some of the harsh and hardcore double clutches in a lot of the modern supercars. But then roll into it, and it just goes so fast. And indeed, this does raise something of a dilemma for me, because as much as I am all manual all the way, PDK is arguably better than the available manual in this car. To meet modern emissions regulations, the Porsche manuals here in North America are geared really tall. You don't actually get out of second gear until you're already in illegal speeds. Now, you can pay tens of thousands of dollars for aftermarket gear sets to change those ratios around to something more playful, but that's a lot of money on top of what's already going to be a very expensive car. Also important to the Boxster Cayman formula is the shocking amount of cargo space in this car. I can climb into the front of this thing and close it on myself. There is room for 2 carry-on bags up front with stuff on top of and beside them. There's room for a 3rd carry-on in the back here, and you can hypothetically load even more in here. There are even little smuggler cubbies right there beside those little quarter windows. This is a strangely spacious car, and especially when you remember that it has this massive engine right here behind this bulkhead. Also massive, the fuel tank. 64 liters in this thing. It will just go forever. Cruising gently on the highway, you can expect fuel economy in around the 8 liters per 100 mark. Driven enthusiastically, and especially in the city, you are looking at something around 14, which is a little bit thirsty. Now, of course, all of this comes at a price. Fortunately, these enthusiast-focused 718 models are not quite as bank-breaking as the current 911s. That 911 GTS I was in the other week, it's $250,000 by the time you're out the door, if not more. This 718 GTS, however, starts at $98,800 and as equipped, $123,750. That's not bad for a premium sports car. It is a really tricky value proposition, however, especially when you hold it up against the really strong value we're seeing out of today's Chevy Corvettes. Still, there's something to be said for the fact that GM has acknowledged that the C8 Corvette's gearbox is actually reverse engineered from the PDK that's here in the 718. It's a really good setup. So with all of that waxed, which would I buy? Well, for starters, I wouldn't get the Cayman, I'd get the Boxster. You see, today's sports cars have gotten so clever and so stiff that we mortal drivers are not going to get all of the benefit out of that extra little bit of chassis rigidity. It's not 1962 anymore. Cars have come a very long way. The Boxster is easy breezy and fun, and passengers love being taken out in convertibles. And honestly, that is a worthwhile consideration when you're buying a fun car like this. Would I spring for the GTS trim? That's tricky. Yes, it's a really great setup. I really like this powertrain. I like the sounds it makes. I like the torque. But I also have a lot of fun in the 4-cylinder turbo Boxsters. Porsche doesn't really make a bad car anymore, which is annoying, but as a consumer, pretty great. Finally though, that is something that I'd be trying to get on sooner rather than later. You see, I just got back from driving the new Porsche 718 Spider RS, a car that Porsche has acknowledged will be the last all-combustion powered 718 in the lineup. Now, I'm sure an electric 718 will be excellent, but if you want in on that gas-powered entertainment that you're hearing behind me, it's probably time to get in while you still can. For Driving.ca, I'm El Alder. For more enthusiast car news, reviews, previews, specs, and all the rest, be sure to check us out online on Driving.ca and follow our socials over on Instagram and Twitter.